Hey everyone, today I'm going to be showing you how I make my geode tables. Big thank you for helping me get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. Really helpful for me. So this is the mold that I use. I actually got it custom made from Phillip.danner. I'll tag his information in the description. I really love this mold because it's actually interchangeable for shapes. I'm in the process of getting another shape. This mold is 16 by 16 and the tables are made 100% out of resin. I do also use some crushed up glass, or I will use these crystals that are also made out of resin. So with this mold, you could do it without a hole and have like the crystals in the middle, or this gives you an option so that it kind of gives it more like a 3D effect with the hole. So that's what I'm going to be using today. And normally I'll put some crystals around it and you'll kind of see the effect of that later on. But yeah, so this is interchangeable, comes off, really easy to clean, you know, whatever you got to do. But yeah, I'm going to start screwing it on. So it comes with these little fasteners. You want to make sure that they're on pretty tight. Otherwise the resin can leak out, which I have experienced, and it is a lot more difficult to get it out of the mold when that happens. So let me get this set up for you guys and I'll show you how I start it. So this is going to be the first layer. I usually do these tables in 4 to 5 different layers because the mold is about 1 inch thick, so the resin has a really hard time staying in one spot. In a deep mold like this, it usually will kind of swarm to the middle as it cures, which is really problematic when you're doing a specific design. So I do it in layers. So this is just going to be the first layer, and then I'm going to come back in when it's dry to the second, third layer, and show you guys how I do that. Okay, so our first layer is completely dried. Go ahead and take the weight off. So that's in there pretty good. I'm going to come back in and do some detail. I'm going to be using a smaller crushed glass for the inside. I just use this to kind of give it the base. Oops. So yeah, I'm going to suit up and get started on this pour. Alright, so now I'm completely done with the mold. I'm going to start taking these guys off and get it out of the mold for you. It can be a little challenging at some times, so I suggest using a heat gun to kind of soften up the resin from the mold. It'll be easier for when you take it out. So I'm going to get started taking this out, and then I'll show you guys what it looks like when it comes out. So now we got it out of the big mold. We're gonna go in later and kind of clean this up a bit. Now, the hardest part is getting the middle piece out. Okay, so now we have it completely out of the mold. As you can see, there's like a bit of a lift up here from the edge, and it's a little, you know, got some extra resin hanging here. So I'm gonna use this tool, the edging tool. I'll have to look up the name of it. I bought it a while ago, so I forget. But yeah, I'm gonna go around and kind of just take a little bit off here so it's more level. Now we have it completely flushed on the edge, and you're gonna get this white kind of chalky look. That's just the way resin looks when you sand it or you kind of chip out of it. But like I said, we're gonna be doing a flood coat, so you won't be able to see that. Also another important reason why you want to do a flood coat. So now I'm gonna go in with my hot glue gun and glue on some more crystals. I like to use real quartz crystals on these and just have them like poke out for more of a 3D effect. But we're also going to go in on this edge over here and glue a bunch of crystals so it doesn't just look like a hard edge in res. So this is edge, so this is before. You're going to need a hot glue gun for this part. You're going to glue it for now, and then for your flood coat, again, this is why it's important to do the flood coat, you're going to make sure you have resin come down over here and also underneath it so those crystals don't go anywhere and they'll be solid on there, because hot glue is just not going to do the job. Okay, so I finished with the crushed glass, and you can see it's got, really hard to get a view on this, but it's got more of a 3D look now that I did the edge. It just doesn't have that hard resin. Oh, I still have some loose pieces. So I'm gonna go in with some quartz crystals, and I'm gonna have them stick out. This is with the quartz crystals. Get a better close-up of the inside of the hole. So that's how you get that 3D effect. Now I'm gonna go in and do another layer. Okay, so the detail is now dry. I usually go in with some gold leaf, liquid gold leaf, and just kind of sharpen up the details a little bit. So I'm going to go in and do that. So now we have the flood coat that's completely dried. I'm gonna go outside and sand it, because when you do the flood coat, you'll have some excess resin running over the edge. So you wanna sand that off. Also, the cans kind of get stuck to it, so it's a little sharp. So you're gonna wanna sand it. So I'm gonna use an orbital sander to do that. And then I'll show you guys how I put the legs on after. Okay, so we have the geode surface completely sanded. The back's not going to look that pretty. You can use some varnish if you don't like how chalky it is. You can also wash it. Most of it will come off. That's just kind of what happens when you sand resin. It gets a little dull. So if it really bothers you, you can go on with some varnish. But now it's completely flat, not sharp at all, because you really want to be careful with that. You will cut yourself on resin. I do it just about every day. So to get the legs in, I'm going to have to screw them in. I have these these 1/2-inch screws. That way they don't screw through the surface. I had a really hard time finding nails appropriate size. So as you can see, it won't go through the surface completely. So I also suggest not putting the legs on with this surface flat, because it has the crystals poking out. So what I normally do is I'll open a box, usually the box that the legs come in, and you just want to have it flushed with the middle in the opening, and then this way it's completely still flat and there's no pressure on the crystals because you don't want them to break off. So I'm going to go in with my marker and mark where I want the legs to go, because you're not just going to screw the legs in, because that's how you're going to crack the surface. Also really difficult to get it in. So what I do is I use drill bits. Drill bit here. Oops. You have a bunch of different sizes. I usually start off with something that's a little bit smaller, and I'm able to measure it on my my drill here. That way I make sure it doesn't screw through the surface, because you definitely don't want to do all that work and then accidentally, have a giant hole in your, well, not a giant hole, but you don't want to screw through the surface, because then you're gonna have to start all over again. So with the small ones, I'm able to measure it out here. So this, no matter how deep I go, it won't go through the surface. But then you're also gonna go in later with a thicker drill bit, just so it's easier for the screw to go in, because sometimes if you don't drill it deep enough, the screw just won't go in all the way, and you really don't want to put that much pressure on the resin surface, because I've never had it crack, but I'm not testing that theory. So I'm gonna go in with my smaller drill and then with a larger, and then we're gonna screw on the legs. So for now, I'm going to mark where I want them. You want to make sure they're kind of like even spread out. Also, something to look for, when you're putting the crystals on the mold, you want to make sure it's not too far out, because now I can't put the legs here because there's crystals and you're not going to be able to screw through the glass. So I'm going to have it more out like this. Also, it's more balanced when you have it, wider rather than scoped in on the middle there. So this looks about good for me. So I'm going to go in with the Sharpie, mark them, and start drilling. So now you're going to go in with the bigger drill bit. This one you have to be really careful with, because it's a different size, I can't push it into the drill anymore. So if you measure it and you go all the way through, that's going all the way through. So you got to be really careful. Plus, this is really just to make it easier for the screw to go in. So I'm just going to go in and make it a little bit wider. So now I'm going to go in and put the legs back on. Okay, so as you can see, it's pretty easy to drill them in. Once the holes are there, it just kind of goes in like butter. So now we have our legs on. I'm gonna flip it over and I'm gonna show you it all done. Okay, so now we have the legs with the surface on. As you can see, it didn't poke through on the top. And we have our 3D center with the crystals sticking out. So this is the 16-inch surface with the 18-inch legs. So let me know what you guys think. If you could subscribe and like, share, I really appreciate it. Let me know what you want to see for my next tutorial. Thank you guys for watching.